Hi, I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen.
Happily ever after only exists in fairy tales.
In this week's reviews,
I now pronounce you teddy bear and wife. May kiss the bear.
Ted, the talking teddy bear, is now married and wants to be a dad. But when the law declares Ted to be property and not a person, the Thunder Buddies must fight to get him the justice he deserves. Seth MacFarlane and Mark Wahlberg star in Ted 2.
You're Sam L. Jackson.
That's great. I mean, just like Sam L. Jackson.
Who is that?
President of the United States.
When the President of the United States plane is shot down over the forests of Finland, it's up to a teenage boy to save him. Oscar nominee Samuel L. Jackson and Ani Tamila star in Big Game.
Being fresh is more important than having money.
A new documentary explores the evolution of hip-hop fashion from the South to the South Bronx and to dressing like you had money even when you didn't.
I didn't even have furniture in my house, man, but I had polo everywhere.
We talk with Sacha Jenkins, the writer-director of Fresh Dressed. All this and more on Arise on Screen. Hello, I'm Mike Sargent, and welcome to Arise on Screen, your global home for films both on screen and behind the scenes. So let's get to it, first with this week's box office winners. Jurassic World tops the box office this week, followed by Inside Out, Spy, San Andreas, and Dope rounds it out in the number 5 spot. Today I'm joined by film critics Brittany McCarthy and Jackson Murphy. Welcome, both of you.
Hi. Thank you very much.
Okay, and before we get to our reviews, I have to acknowledge the passing of a giant in film music. Yes. Oscar-winning composer James Horner, who died in a tragic plane crash. Horner, nominated for 8 Academy Awards, scored dozens of films over his 3-decade career, but he's most recognized for the scores for Star Trek, The Wrath of Khan, and his Oscar-winning score for Titanic. Now, I'm a huge movie soundtrack aficionado, so my knowledge goes deep.
Okay.
But I want to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Brittany, what are your favorite or most memorable James Horner scores?
I'm going to have to go with Avatar.
Really? Okay.
I really liked that movie.
Okay.
It was different, and it was so unique. And I actually watched the behind the scenes.
Right.
And just the way that they made everything and how they put it all into one, I was just amazed. And I was like, this is the best film ever.
Okay, so everything worked for you, the score, the
yeah,
movie,
I
the
loved
story.
it all. Like,
okay,
it was really
well, I know
good.
Jackson doesn't agree with you. And Jackson, what's your favorite Horner
Oh my
score?
gosh, well, listening to that song again just almost brought tears to my eyes. I love Titanic.
Okay.
But The Grinch as well, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He worked with Ron Howard on that film,
did.
and A Beautiful Mind as well, and that was a really upbeat, fun score for that film, and obviously Titanic as well.
Okay, all right. Well, I thought Titanic was okay. I thought Grinch was decent. Avatar, good score.
Was good.
But for me, I like early James. I like early James Horner. When he first started out, he did 2 scores I love. One is Gorky Park. Great score. If you ever get a chance, doesn't sound like anything like what he's known for, that big bombastic stuff. And I have to say, that's probably my favorite Horner score. I like what he did with Wrath of Khan. I like his early work, some other things, Brainstorm, great film, but definitely Gorky Park. If you get a chance, take a listen to that.
Gorky Park, I will look into that, yes.
And I also have to mention the passing of a great British film actor, Patrick Macnee, who is most known for his role as John Steed alongside Diana Rigg in The Avengers, the 1960 TV series. Patrick Macnee was 93 years old. And we'll be back in a few minutes just to talk more movies. Next,
The government shut on property. This is a nightmare.
in the comedy Ted 2, the world's favorite foul-mouthed teddy bear is back. And this time, he must prove to the courts that he's human. Next, here on Arise on Screen.
At this moment,
Objection.
overruled. You've done nothing.
The great thing about Arise Entertainment 360 is that we cover the 360 of entertainment, food, fashion, lifestyle, culture. We're able to cover it all. And the thing I love most about the show is we're able to do a stunning combination of high and low. So we can talk about Rihanna on the red carpet, but we can also speak about high art with people like Sanford Biggers and Hank Willis. We actually spend quality time with our guests and we really get to know them. It's really intriguing because we get a 360 look at our guests.
The best way to predict the future is to create it. There's a special breed of achievers out there that are called tomorrow's people, the highly creative ones who live in the future. They imagine what will be and strive to make it happen. They are bold. They refuse to wait for the future. Tomorrow bends and conforms to their ideas. At Access Bank, we share the same sentiments. We've been able to grow our bank to become a leading player in Nigeria with a strong presence across the continent, adopting best practice in everything we do. Our mantra for success is simple: speed, service, and security. Those who shape tomorrow, strive for, and demand perfection. At Access Bank, our service culture of speedy response and drive for excellence is the blueprint for creating customer experiences that will echo for generations. Come, let's work together and take tomorrow.
Oh my God, Teddy, look at this. It's as if we want to have a baby, you're going to have to prove you're a person in a court of law.
This is a nightmare.
We gotta fight it. We'll get a lawyer and we'll sue the government for your civil rights.
I'm Samantha Jackson. You must be Ted.
Yeah, Samantha Jackson. What's your middle name?
Leslie.
Oh my God, you're Sam L. Jackson.
That's great. I mean, just like Sam L. Jackson.
Who is that?
You ever seen any movie ever? He's the black guy.
Ted 2 is a sequel to the surprise breakout 2012 hit Ted, about a teddy bear who comes to life and grows up to be a foul-mouthed troublemaker. In Ted 2, he's married, wants to have a baby, but first must prove to the courts he's a person.
He's so cute and lovable, but yet he says what is on everybody else's mind. He has the, excuse my language, he has the balls to say it. And he's going out there and he's fighting the fight. He doesn't mince words, and he's very much like Seth in that way. Seth will not be censored for anybody. I mean, I have a line, and if I think it's too much, I just tell Seth, and he says, fine, you know what? You don't have to say it, I'll have Ted say it. And then it's actually okay.
Welcome back to Arise on Screen. With me in the studio is Brittany, McCarthy, and Jackson. So let me ask you both. Now, first of all, I know, Jackson, you're more on my side. I thought the original Ted was okay. I thought this was actually a lot better. I thought this was a lot better. So I'm going to go to you first now. You like this movie. Tell me why you did.
It's so funny. It's one of the top 5 comedies I think I've ever seen in my life.
Top 5?
Because,
top 5?
Yes, because it's just so outrageous. Every line is hysterical. He gets away with so much. There are so many classic scenes that have Scott Fitzgerald scene, the Jurassic Park tribute. There's so much here to like. Some of it's really wrong, and there are a lot of insults. I don't know. I laughed so much.
Well, now, I got to tell you, I agree. I think about 80% of it is really wrong, and I think everybody gets offended. As a matter of fact, I don't even think you should be seeing this movie.
100%.
But I liked it. I mean, some of the gags are great. I loved Michael Dorn being in there, pretending to be Worf. That was a fun moment in the movie. There are a lot of good things about it, but the comedy is definitely off color. Now, you, Brittany, you did not like this movie.
I did
Why?
not enjoy this film at all. It
Really?
was so
You didn't laugh?
inappropriate.
You didn't laugh at all?
Okay, I did laugh a couple times. I did like the little Kanye.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, you said there was a scene you almost walked out on without giving it away.
The donor scene, that was too much for me.
Really?
Bro,
You
it was
know what
outrageous.
I'm
The screen
you
I went
shouldn't
to
have
was
seen.
crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was too much. Like, and then I had like 2 ladies that were sitting next to me. They literally got up and walked out, and I wanted to walk out with them, but I had to
Clearly
give
they
a
didn't see the first movie, or they would
Well,
have known what they were getting into.
But I saw the first one, and I didn't think it was that bad.
You liked the first one?
I liked the first one. I was like, okay, this is cool. Thunder Buddies was my thing, but I mean, Ted 2 was just very inappropriate. I really did not enjoy this film at all.
Well, I have to tell you, I walked in thinking I wouldn't like it because I thought Ted 2 was a little overrated, and I was surprised it made $500 million.
People wanted to see what the Family Guy creator could do.
Yes, they
and
did.
He gets away with everything.
And I have to say, it clearly worked better than the Western he did.
Ways to Die in the West was a bomb.
Yes, it
that
was.
was a bomb.
So we're going to move on, but would you recommend?
No.
That
I
was
would.
Sort of
You got to
rhetorical.
see the first Ted. in order to enjoy Ted 2, in order to really enjoy it.
First one's good. Well, according to Brittany, like if you see the first one, you won't like the second.
Exactly.
All right, our next film is called Escobar, Paradise Lost. Oscar winner Benicio del Toro plays controversial drug baron Pablo Escobar. Worlds collide when a young surfer, played by Josh Hutcherson, falls in love with Escobar's niece and gets entangled in the dangerous world of the drug trade.
He offered me a job at the hacienda. Wait, he did what? I want you to be happy for me.
If you see anything strange around here, you come and tell me. Not a word to anyone.
Everybody loves you here. You're part of my family.
I have to trust everyone near me. Understand?
Now, I'm going to ask you, Brittany. Now, this movie is loosely based on a true story, but I was surprised. I like this a lot better than I expected. I thought that Benicio del Toro, every time he comes on screen, he's very enigmatic. I totally bought him as a character, and it makes you understand why people love this man. I thought Josh Hutcherson, who's from The Hunger Games also, in his first real film, you know, as a lead, did very well. Now, you liked it.
I'm so surprised we agree on something
I know.
This is a moment.
Yes.
But yes, I enjoyed this film a lot. What I like the most about it is the storyline. Like, this guy falls in love with this girl, and he's like pushed into the family business. Like, he didn't even ask to be a part of it, you know?
No.
And it's like, and it's sad that everything they had to go through and the people who lost their lives. It's just a really good movie. Like, it's definitely different from any other drug trade movie, anything that I've ever seen before.
Now, Jackson, you agree. You were surprised by this.
I was surprised how much I like this movie, too. It's not in chronological order, which I like. Usually I like every movie to be very straightforward.
You don't like a fractured narrative.
So I can follow it. Yeah, I really don't. Usually it doesn't work for me most of the time, but this really worked, and Benicio del Toro is very good. And Josh Hutcherson, who was good in the Hunger Games movies as well, really shines here. He really does.
Yes.
I agree. I think that this is a film that audiences will be surprised. It's kind of a small film, but there's nothing about it that really feels small because you really get the scope of what's going on.
True.
And I think because it's a small personal story and kind of a love story too, you know, I like the way it starts. You know, to me, unlike you, Jackson, I like a movie that digs a hole and then fills it throughout the movie for you to figure out.
Keeps you thinking throughout.
Keeps you thinking. You go like, I see that. So I take it you would recommend Brittany.
I would, and I just also want to talk about the ending of the film because when it ends off, it leaves you like you don't know what really happened.
Well,
so,
you can kind of.
You never know. So we needed to. But go ahead.
Okay. That's all you want to say. So what you'd recommend?
I recommend, yes.
You too?
I would recommend this. Yeah, Hutcherson and Benicio del Toro were producers on the film as well, so clearly there was money behind it.
Yeah, Benicio del Toro is an actor who needs to work a lot more, which I don't understand. So we'll be back in a few minutes to talk more movies. When we return,
The entire time I grew up, I only wanted money so I could be fresh.
the new documentary Fresh Dressed traces the history of hip-hop's influence on fashion. We sit down with the film's writer-director next here on Arise on Screen.
So what we do is we bring together experts and analysts and thought leaders and CEOs in companies across many industries to not only provide the macroeconomic view, but news everyday people can use.
Arise News is a different kind of network. We are able to tell our own stories, and we're able to cover stories in a way that other media outlets don't do. We've got world-class journalists, veteran journalists who have been in this industry for decades, not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes as well. Arise News is a place where we can tell stories in an interesting, factual, inclusive way like no one else in the business can.
You wanted everybody to know that you was down with this movement.
Hip-hop fashion we're not gonna follow the rules mentality.
No money. Might have had 50 cents between us, and we were fresh.
It's all about that flair, what you look like. How does it radiate off of you?
The new documentary, Fresh Dressed, explores the history of hip-hop fashion from its birth in the South to the streets of the South Bronx to its influential rise into a multi-billion-dollar global industry. I had a chance to sit down with writer-director Sacha Jenkins, who explained what it means to be fresh dressed.
Well, growing up in the 80s and 70s, you know, fresh dressed meant in the inner city that you had stuff that looked and smelled brand new. It was fresh out of the box. And this notion of, you know, coming from neighborhoods where people don't have that much money, the notion of people being able to recognize that you're wearing something of value that came fresh out of the box said something. And that's what I wanted to address with this film. The notion of clothing in our community means so much more than just function. It's language, it's how we communicate with one another, and at some levels it creates a bit of a pecking order between the haves and those who do not have.
Well, in your documentary, you trace, how people of color dress all the way back to, the South and plantations, and all the way up to the 70s gangs, all the way up to today. Where did you begin? Like, where did you first say, okay, this is where I need to start my story?
Well, in America, you've got to start with slavery. How did we get here? And everyone knows the term Sunday best. You ask anyone, what does Sunday best mean? They'll tell you, oh, it means you wear your nice stuff to church. And then they're half right. But during slavery, there was a period where states instituted a law where slave owners had to purchase a nice outfit so their slaves could go to church and worship in a manner deemed respectable. So I wanted to introduce these ideas to get people thinking about what it is that they wear and why they wear it.
Well, you mentioned something earlier that I thought was interesting, and it comes up a lot, wearing those clothes, being fresh dressed, like whatever your economic background might be, whatever your apartment might really look like, something about how you're dressed says something about what you aspire to. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to look nice. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking nice, but sometimes in the inner city, clothing becomes so important that sometimes people, lust for things that they can't afford. And that's not just black people or brown people. I think in America, we often lust for things that we can't afford. But what I remember growing up in the 80s, bringing it back to Sunday best in church, Easter in New York City, if you were a kid in the hood, you had Easter break. And after Easter break, you had to come back to school looking fresh. And if you didn't, you'd be ostracized. And I knew a lot of kids whose parents, unfortunately, couldn't afford to keep their kids fresh, so they would keep themselves fresh by selling crack. And in 1986, 87, I knew kids who were making $1,200 a day. And so with that kind of money, you can keep your entire building fresh. And so these are the ideas that I wanted to introduce in the film, just to get people thinking about what fashion has meant to us.
Well, I'm also curious now, this is a documentary that you've got all kinds of, well-known celebrities, influencers in there. How did you get these people, and how willing were they to talk about the subject?
Well, as a longtime journalist, I was a music editor at Vibe magazine for many years. I did Eminem's biography. I've been writing about music for some time. So a lot of these folks I had relationships with, through their publicists or through knowing them personally. So that was a big part of many of the gets, me sort of writing about the culture for at least 20 years and having a name that people were at least familiar with. I think that had a heavy hand, and a great producing team who also had a great Rolodex.
How long were you working on this documentary? How long did it take to go from start
top
to
to bottom? About 2 years to get it done. I interviewed over 80 people, because ultimately the film is a backdoor way of telling the history of hip-hop, where it all came from. And, runway fashion to me is privilege. It represents privilege, people who are privileged who can afford to dress a particular way. Hip-hop and hip-hop fashion, how we dressed was a reaction to the environment and the climate that created hip-hop. The film goes from slavery to the Bronx in the early 70s. The South Bronx looked like World War II Poland. Landlords were burning their buildings down. There was something called white flight.
Yeah.
And what was left? These kids in these buildings. And so who were they inspired by, fashion-wise? They were inspired by biker gangs, the Hells Angels. And because they were of color, they couldn't be in those gangs, so they created their own fraternities. And the fashion was a reflection, the aggressive nature of this rough and tumble world in the South Bronx. Their fashion reflected that. And if you study hip-hop fashion throughout the evolution of the music and the culture, you see the fashion as a reflection of where people are in the culture.
Well, now, being so knowledgeable about this, having been a journalist, having produced, and being so involved in music, what were some things that you were really surprised to learn as you started to do the research? Anything?
Well, I didn't ask people about freedom. I started the film with slavery, but so many folks independently talked about the notion of freedom and how clothing was so closely associated with this notion of freedom. And so when you think about how important clothing is to people in our community and how they feel this sense of freedom when they dress and express themselves in ways that make them feel good, that's one side of it. And then there's the other side of it that is kind of the antithesis of freedom, wherein we are owned by these material items that we can't afford, you know, or these brands that weren't necessarily created for us.
Right.
You know? And so hip hop really, it's like chitlins. You know what I mean? Hip hop to me is just the continuum of black survival in America. What is chitlins? Chitlins was the stuff nobody wanted.
Right.
And we created something new. What is hip hop? We take classical, we take heavy metal, we create something new, and what do we splash on top of it? The attitude. The attitude is the voice. So hip hop, all it really is an attitude, it's a spirit, it's an energy. And we, since we don't see ourselves in so many different things, we say, I like that, I want to see me in it, I take from it, I sample, I put myself in it, and then it becomes mine, and I take pride in what it is.
So the film is going to be in theaters and VOD, is that the deal?
Yeah, it will be available VOD on Vimeo, via Vimeo, and then in the fall, it will be shown on CNN.
We'll be back. Coming up.
Who are you?
The President of the United States.
In the thriller Big Game, the President of the United States crashes in the wilds of Finland, and only a teenage boy can save him. Samuel L. Jackson stars next here on Arise on Screen.
Well, Arise is the only network that really covers comprehensively the African diaspora. It gives people in other parts of the world of color a chance to know about people here in the United States, us to know about them, and the world to know about us. So it's kind of an educational experience for everybody involved. Getting to know people through stories, through personal stories. You really get a chance to know what people are actually all about, what communities are about. How are we different? But more importantly, what commonalities we all share.
Knock him off. Use it like a wrecking ball.
Ranger, you shouldn't be here.
Don't murder, Mr. President. I will save you.
Hang on. Ranger.
Big Game is the first Finnish action film ever made. It stars Samuel L. Jackson as the President of the United States, whose plane gets shot down over Finland. His only hope of survival lies with a young boy. Welcome back to Arise on Screen. Now, I have to say, Jamari Helander, who is the director of this, he made a great film about 10 years ago called Rare Exports, which I highly recommend you see. And it's a Finnish thriller. Finnish thriller, which is, you know, who says that? And this is his second effort, and it took him a while, and it's clear to me, he reminded me of like Luc Besson, where clearly he grew up on a steady diet of American popcorn films, and he said he wants to make one.
Right.
But like Luc Besson, it gets bogged down. The concept's great, but it gets kind of bogged down in the corn. And I think that you, Jackson, liked it a lot less than me.
Yeah. All I kept thinking of Sam Jackson, honey, where's my super suit? When he says in The Incredibles. Or like he would ask the kid, what's in your wallet, you know? This is cornball. This is, I can't believe Sam Jackson was in this movie. I laughed a little bit at how cheesy it was, but the cast, Felicity Huffman's in it. I mean, there's so many people. Jim Broadbent. Can't believe they must have gotten paid a nice chunk of change, I guess. Low budget, though.
Yeah, definitely.
This is not very good.
Low budget, you really didn't like it. Now, Brittany, you liked it a little more than him, I think.
Just a little bit. You know, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan, but I did like it a little more than you. I did think the movie was a little cheesy, but I thought it was good for kids, you know, to watch and for them to enjoy. It definitely wasn't for adults.
Now, you see, I agree with you. This is not a movie really for adults, and I think in the spirit of Spielberg, who used to make a lot of movies that were really for kids.
Right. Early on. Yes.
Early on, and I think, and because I interviewed interviewed him earlier this week, and he said he's been getting all these offers from Hollywood to do all these big budget Hollywood films, and he's turned them all down because he's got something else he wrote and he wants to make that. So, I hope it's, a little smarter than this one. But I will say I like the spirit of this. I like the idea. It does, by the third act, you're like, okay, this is kind of ridiculous. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. I can't say it's a good movie, but I enjoyed it.
Oh my gosh.
And I take it you wouldn't recommend, Jackson?
I would not recommend. This isn't for kids. This isn't for adults. This is for nobody. This is a waste of 90 minutes.
Ooh.
It's a family movie.
It's a family movie.
Jackson, you need to come out of your shell and tell me what you really thought of the film.
Well, I gotta say, I still didn't like it. I really didn't.
And you wouldn't recommend either?
No, I would. It's a family movie.
It is a family
corny,
movie.
but
it's corny, but fun. See, I would recommend it. Again, go in knowing it's corn. You don't even need to buy popcorn.
I think Sam Jackson thought the same thing. He went in knowing it was corn.
His acting showed that.
I have to agree with you. You mentioned something. Seeing Sam Jackson be wimpy.
Oh yeah.
You don't really
I didn't like that.
All right, our final film is called Glass Chin. It stars Corey Stoll as Bud Gordon, a former boxing champion who's forced to choose between friendship and ambition when he's framed for murder.
What happened back there?
What always happens, man?
It's in the paper. I'm being framed.
Framed by who?
JJ.
Hey there.
They got me on tape.
Souvenir.
They got me.
Kid Sunshine. He's got to fall down.
This is a great. Now, I thought that this movie was actually a bit of a surprise because I thought it took what is generally a well-worn genre, the pugilist who's trying to get out of his situation or regain his former glory, and I thought it took some turns. It gave some actors, especially Billy Crudup, who I think is a great actor who's very underused, and Corey Stoll, who's going to be an Ant-Man soon.
That's right.
I thought he was pretty solid, but I have to say now, you liked him in the film, Corey Stoll, but Brittany, you didn't like Corey Stoll. You felt that they should have recast him.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like his acting in this film at all. I thought it was pretty boring, and I didn't think he could get into the character enough for me. And I liked the storyline, and I wanted to feel it, and I couldn't get that from him. The whole time I'm just like, we need a new person for this. I need to feel this boxer, what he's going through. He's just been framed for being stupid. So
I wanted to feel the stupidity.
I wanted to feel the stupidity. Be the dummy that you are.
Yeah, be the dummy that you are. Okay, now.
There's the quote. Okay.
Jackson,
it's going on the poster.
What's your thought now? Because you had some issues with script and other things.
Yeah, it's really weak. I mean, one of the things I liked about it was sort of the editing, the direction. The director took some risks with a few things. And at one point during the movie, there's a line he says, if you're running or jogging down the street and you're listening to the Rocky music, you're too much of a sentimental boxer. Yeah, that was a nice little touch. But yeah, this is really weak. I was disappointed by it. I think he will be better in Ant-Man. I think he'll get a better role to shine with that. But yeah, kind of cliched all over.
Well, I thought, in actuality, what he was going for in some ways, because it's kind of a film noir, but like a micro noir.
It tries to be gritty.
Yeah, it tries to be gritty. I enjoyed some of the cinematography. I enjoyed some of the scenes. I enjoyed the kind of the fly on the wall thing when you see his relationship with his wife and things like that. So I thought it was well staged and well put together. I expected less than what I got. Now, would you recommend?
No. Maybe on Netflix if I'm bored at night.
Okay.
If you're bored, yeah.
And you?
No, I wouldn't recommend this. This is another waste of time. Yeah. Not worth it.
No. I can see that you are a film critic. So, but before we go, I have to make mention of another film that's finally coming out this weekend, the documentary Bat Kid Begins. Now, this is a film that's been for a while in the making. We've been reading about it on social media, about this boy who had cancer, who wanted to be Batman basically Bat Kid for a day. And this is a movie that I was really surprised is moving and touching, and I went in not caring, like Bat Kid, who cares? I walked out caring. I was actually moved. Towards the end of the film, I almost cried.
I did cry.
Okay. All right.
I really like this documentary because you actually see from the beginning to the end of everything that they had. What is it? Make-A-Wish Foundation? Of what they had to do to prepare for this, and it was really intense.
I thought it was very intense.
It definitely. I'm sure they were surprised of the outcome. I was like, wow, who thinks of this and make it come to life?
That's how I felt. So. It's been a lot of fun. I'd like to thank you both for being here.
Thanks very much.
Time flew by. And I'm Mike Sargent, and we'll be back next week to talk more movies here on Arise on Screen.
On screen.